Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 14th, 2023 at approximately 4:23 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally live by. Now, with that in mind, as per requested, I believe it was last night, we're going to look at how do you stabilize your family. Bear in mind, family may not be your bloodline, but we'll get to that in half a second. Before we do that, though, we have Football Cat in with the gold, and Nathan from the Quantum Show is in with the bronze. Now, let's see if we can actually get this. I've been running into all sorts of neat little problems today. Yeah, that's going to be a while before that comes up. Okay. You know, football goes, my family's dysfunctional. You know, the ironic part there, Football Cat, is just about everybody I know, their family is a little off kilter. I have no idea what the idea of a normal family is, to be honest with you. I mean, I lucked out. I really did. Because I do not recall in all the time my parents were together, which was literally 60 years. Now, I wasn't around for all 60 of it. But for the 40 years I was around for, I do not recall them ever having a fight. Now, that's got to be an abnormality, or at least I thought it was, until I found my current other half. And her and I have been together for just about 3 years. Thus far, not one fight. Not that I'm complaining. Okay. I do not like the fact that this isn't working as well as I would like. Of course, I've been having trouble with all sorts of things today. Where is refresh? I'm not like, even this stream isn't even coming up for me right now. So I usually have it on this monitor here, and I'm not even getting that. Now, what do we got here? Let's go live chat there. Okay. Philip, you are in with the silver, with the bronze. And Philip is adding here soul family or flesh family, or both. In all fairness, all three of the above. Maybe bloodline, maybe just the people that you're talking about that you call family. It may even be a soul family, but that's a much more complicated setup. Okay. And Emmy is in with honorable mention. How you doing, Emmy? Glad you could join us. You know, things are not going well today, so, you know, we're just going to chalk it up to a whole lot of technological problems. And there we go. We finally got that up. Now I can have... Now, with this in mind, let's get that on live so that it actually works. And there we are. You know, I'd love to say it was Happy Wednesday. I mean, in all fairness, I'm not overly unhappy with it. But I will tell you, the computer problems I've had today have just been insane. The fact I'm on it all here is amazing. But here's the thing. Regardless of what your family is, regardless of how dysfunctional you may feel it may be. Okay, first thing you got to remember. Bloodline family is not your only type. Okay, bloodline family, from a physical standpoint, you don't get options on. From a spiritual standpoint, hate to tell you this, but as dysfunctional as it may be, this was your setup. Nobody hit you, nobody coerced you, nobody laid it out, nobody pre-planned it. Okay, you set this one up in between lifetimes. Now, you don't have to believe that by any means. This is just the way I've come to understand the world. Okay, so what I'm looking at here, when you're looking at putting a family together, stabilizing it, the first thing you have to realize, any rules in the house have got to apply to every single member of the family, adult and child alike. Okay, so for instance, if the parents are saying, if you're the parent, this goes to you. If the parents are saying, you must shut the lights off in any room you're leaving, if that's the rule that everybody's supposed to follow, that means the parents should be following it as well. Because if they don't, you're going to run into snags. In all fairness, Philip, no. Philip says, except bedtime. Here, and the reason I say no is this. Bedtimes, you got to remember, first and foremost, people, whether they're adults or kids, require sleep. Okay, this is the body's way of recovering. Now, children and adults alike are known to stay up way past when they should, primarily because they seem to have this fear they're going to miss something. Okay, and that can create a problem in and of itself. So, as a parent, you got to remember, the whole thing about setting a bedtime for a child is not just that the child needs sleep. It's also that the parent needs a break. Now, I am talking about what I call a functional family. This is sidestepping the families that, unfortunately, where the parents and or kids are drug addicts and or alcoholics, amongst other addictions beyond count. Okay, I'm talking an operational family, if you will. Yeah, Philip goes, I miss the morning when I stay up late. When I stay up, well, you wrote late. Oh, I see. You miss the morning when you do stay up late. Yeah, and this is quite often the case. I will usually be in bed by 10 o'clock. Sad part is I'm also usually up by 1:30. You know, and this can create an interesting problem of its own. But the first guideline to stabilize things, why pray tell us that up? The first trick to stabilizing or to strengthening the bond, set rules in place. Every civilization, every home requires guidelines. It is absolutely imperative. If you talk to the teenagers or talk to kids, they'll tell you the same thing. At least I found they all told me the same thing. They would rather have boundaries in place. Philip, most people need more than 3.5 hours of sleep. Okay. When I've talked to kids, and especially teenagers, about it, they would rather have a parent that sets boundaries than one that says, go and do what you will. Okay. It is a way, setting boundaries is, by the way, a way of showing you actually care. Okay. And kids don't learn what their own boundaries are if you don't actually get taught. Think about it this way. Let's take a look at what every child I've ever heard of comes up with a problem with. How do you figure out when to go to the washroom to avoid peeing your pants when you're a child? Okay. The parent turns around and says, run off to the washroom and go to the washroom. Usually it's the case to do that before you leave the house. Well, this is the whole catch, Philip. This is why I say boundaries, when they're put in place, you still go back to karmic law. Okay? You be true to yourself first. Do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. And energy out, energy in. Now, if you are doing that, and you're respecting the boundaries you put in place, yes, it is absolutely imperative that those boundaries are respected. This is why I say they have to be unilateral across the board. Whether we are talking about adults following the rules, kids following the rules, or for that matter, visitors. Okay, this is why it is so important to start with to put the boundaries in place. Now, I will tell you, I'm not perfect at this. I've made my fair share of miscalculations as well. Okay, but if you do not start when they're children, you're going to, when they're tiny, you're going to have problems getting it turned around later. It's the same as you personally. If you start exercising when you're a child, okay, and it gets into a routine, it's very easy as an adult to maintain it. If you didn't do it when you were a kid, getting yourself up and running on that department may be a challenge. Okay, this is just where we start, is get an idea of how your world is. There's a couple of things that are pretty cut and dry, as in, if you move it, put it back. If you open it, close it. If you break it, fix it, or find somebody that can fix it. Okay. And above all, be honest. Okay. The moment you start lying to each other and or yourself, you're going to start running into challenges. Now, in all fairness, boundaries are kind of a pain in the neck for a lot of people. I desire my freedom. Well, it's a cute thought, but freedom in society, if you don't have rules, picture how fun it's going to be driving downtown, or for that matter, in the country. If people don't have a boundary that says, drive down the right-hand side of the road, if you're going that direction, stay on the right and carry on. What happens if we don't have that rule? Okay, all of a sudden people are driving all over the place. Okay, now that's just plain dense. In my opinion, football just said someone at work told me I could not call her without written permission. Now, is this just, I gotta ask, is this a coworker or a boss? Just a curiosity thing. Well, it's curiosity, but there's two ways of looking at it. Okay, no problem. You can't call her without written permission. I'm dead serious on this comment. Do not call her, period. Just don't. Okay, you just drop connection, you deal with her at work if you have to. And other than that, you have nothing to do with her. Somebody like that, they're just telling you, I want control of everything, so you just drop them all together. Hey, Henry, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But yeah, that's one of those boundaries. I mean, you have to honor it. Absolutely. She has asked you, do not call without written permission, which means, in my opinion, don't call. Okay, that is just that easy. And then when she turns around and goes, and she will eventually turn around and go, why doesn't anybody ever call me? Well, primarily because you're an idiot. But, primarily you said don't call without written permission. We don't do that. Okay. And I mean, that's just as Emmy put up. Emmy put that's crazy. Personally, I think it's insane, which is actually a contradiction. See, if you're insane, you're in the state of sanity. Okay. But no, a boundary like that is absolutely off kilter. Okay. Next thing she's gonna be asking is for people to bow when they address her. I'm thinking there's a problem here. But boundaries are critical. The other thing, see, when I was growing up, if there was a $5 bill sitting on the counter, or for that matter, a quarter sitting on the counter, there was a standing rule. If you didn't put it there, do not move it. Some people are, Philip. They absolutely are. However, that being said, Okay, some people are afraid of all sorts of things. Okay, but that being said, that's not don't call me without written permission. That's don't call me. Okay, this has nothing to do with, my instincts are telling me this has absolutely nothing to do with the fear of phones. This has to do with control. Otherwise, now I have told people, and I've modified that recently, but I used to tell people, if you don't tell me you're calling and it comes in on an unknown number, odds are I won't pick it up. At this point, I will pick up an unknown number. Of course, if I don't like what I'm hearing, I'll hang up in a heartbeat, but I'm good at that. But no, when you look at that issue, if you're putting a boundary in place, make certain it is realistic and that it does not break community law. Okay, definitely does, Emmy. Either a narcissist or maybe she's just got a complex, a godplex. And Philip goes, maybe she prefers unknowns with UFO hotlines. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe she prefers to communicate through messenger pigeon. That is possible. Nathan goes, I answer unknowns with UFO hotline. Would you like to make a report? I like that one. That's really nice. I usually end up picking them up and going, you got about 15 seconds to say to talk to me. And then I'm hanging up. That is possible. There's a lot of possibilities. And I will tell you guys, when somebody says, don't call me without written permission, my first instinct is, I don't care what the reason is. Okay. If you want written permission, go get a government job that actually has triplicate and what have you. Because I just plain won't pick up the phone. But that's me. Yeah, football's going. Yeah. Yeah, football just says Dallas Police Department. See, I had a buddy that used to turn around and go, like, he'd pick up the phone and go, City Morgue, you stab him, we slap him. Quite often you get people hanging up when you do that. One thing that I absolutely take a look at there, whenever you're dealing with this, you can speculate until the cows come home as to what the problem is. Okay. But there's not much point in putting that much effort into it in my eyes. But no, boundaries are critical. I mean, that is a boundary, but that's a boundary that just locks doors. Okay. I will tell people quite readily, when you reach out to me, if I don't know who you are, you may be on the bottom of the list of my getting back. This is why I say, if you're dropping me a line, absolutely make certain you let me know where you're catching me from, because it opens a lot of doors. Not the least of which sets me up in a good way to understand it. Henry's going, Adam used to answer his phone with Russian embassy. I mean, I've seen all sorts of neat little ways. Oh, that's just not nice, Philip. I like it, but it's not nice. There are a lot of ways that you can have fun with calls that you don't know. However, I'm a firm believer, answering your own phone how you choose is up to you. Okay, phoning people on prank calls, I disagree with entirely. Okay, I absolutely personally disagree with them completely. But again, you put the rules in place. Make sure that around your home, whatever your family, whether we are talking bloodline, selected friends, like I consider the people in this chat room, and quite seriously, I consider them family. Okay, in a twisted sort of way. But you guys, I get along with better than I get along with the people in my own family half the time. You know, the thing is, because I'm very good at picking up a phone, if I answer the phone and I don't know who it is, I will hang up. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It's one now that I know how to do it. Sad part is, I couldn't figure out. My son took a number of tries to figure out how to actually get it so that I could figure out how to hang up the phone when the phone call was finished with regards to cell phones. Now, your standard landlines, I don't have a problem with. These things are annoying in a lot of ways, but I do kind of require them. So at this point, yes, I have posted my phone number. I have, and well, yeah. Unfortunately, when my phone is active, that red button doesn't show up unless you open the top end of it, which I now know how I'm doing it, so that's okay. But I will tell you, it was a pain in the neck figuring it out. But like I've told you guys, technologically, I am, shall we say, challenged. That's just the sad reality of it. Well, I've been called a lot of things. Strange definitely fits the bill. I don't know what normal is, in all honesty. But one thing I would strongly recommend for all of you, whether you are in a house with bloodline family, whether you're gathering with friends, whether you got roommates, it doesn't matter. These are all different forms of family. Okay. And I realize today is extremely hectic. One of the things that is very necessary, pick one meal of the day. Okay. A minimum of once a week, but preferably on a daily basis, but a minimum of once a week. Turn all your electronics off. Okay. Sit down and have dinner at the dining room table, not scattered around the house. Okay. Honestly, Philip, I really am. I am much more familiar with the ways of the ancients, as you put it. Okay. When family was, you built the family around the table. You didn't build the family in front of a computer. Okay. Closest thing you had to a computer, from when I recall the time frame best, they didn't have a computer, they had an abacus. And I'm still trying to remember how to use the thing. But with that in mind, okay, I'm seriously considering building one. An abacus, I mean. Football's just saying you're so familiar with U.S. customs. I've never lived in the States. I've visited a few times over the years, but never have I lived there. Not this lifetime. Last lifetime I did, and much as I knew the rules, I pretty much broke every one of them. Okay. In my last lifetime, okay, by 1916, no, by 1914, I already had a juvenile record for such neat little things as murder, breaking and entering, assault with intent to kill, assault with a deadly weapon. I was not a nice kid. Okay. And this idea of let's slap the modern day kid on the wrist and tell them, oh, that's bad. Don't do that. You got to talk nicely to them. I'll tell you, it doesn't work. Okay. Want proof on that one? Oh, heavens. I'm not talking murder this lifetime. I'm referring to murder as in, we are talking back in 1914. Okay. We are talking over 100 years ago. And that's the thing you got to remember. This lifetime, I've never even gotten so much as a speeding ticket. Not for lack of speeding, just I managed to pull that off. Don't know how. One of these days I may get down to take a look at Niagara Falls. I've never actually seen it myself. Okay, but Yeah. Philip goes, abacus is a great tool because if you learn it early, you can internalize it to do advanced math without a calculator. Yeah, that's just it. You really can. Mind you, you can internalize math in any age. Okay, the thing you've got that all of you have to remember, some of these tools, some of these techniques we're talking about do not take a lot of work. They do take a little bit of effort to say, hey, I'm shifting my way of doing things. Okay. For instance, okay, when you're having dinner, real simple rule. You finish dinner, wash the dishes right away. Get them put away. Do not wait for them to air dry. Okay. Or in this case, air drying also meaning evaporate. You know, what we're looking at here is if you desire your family to reconnect in a functional fashion, first and foremost, pick the boundaries you're content with. Now, this one person that mentioned that don't contact her unless you get written permission. Okay. Number one, somebody like that you just don't contact. In my opinion, way too much effort. Okay. The reason I suggest people text me or drop me a line is so that I can actually sort things out, so I can keep priorities in order. Now, for instance, this little book here. Oh, that reminds me. I got something in here I just picked the box up for. There we are. Those come out of there. Now, this little box. Get these out of the way. These are all file cards, and I gotta go through them. But this little box here. Oh, I don't think he's in here. I'll keep an eye open. But I just sent out, I decided I was starting to really push the business. Understand, I work at home. Okay. Yeah, the funny thing there, Philip, is the devil herself wasn't actually, the devil it's an identifier. But you got to remember, the one thing she doesn't do is she will not lie. Okay. She works with contracts. Now, she will absolutely twist the daylights out of them to make them in her benefit. Big J, which one are we referring to? And I do mean that quite literally. I'm just stepping out of the way for half a second. Okay, now. Okay. We have finished I've got all the pictures for it. Okay. I've got all the pictures for it. We are now, effective this week, going to be going through each of the individual species, and like each one of the races, and going through them in detail. The one thing that we decided to change in it, as it were, is the girl, the editor that I've got, and she's not a girl, she's a woman, but that's beside the point. She is 100% blind. So what we are doing is we're going to go through and make certain on top of the pictures that we have descriptions well enough that she can effectively see them, making the book that much more versatile to those of you that can't see. Okay. But so we're getting started on that right away. But the lead into it, let me open that file up. Might already be open in all fairness. Let us minimize that. Races of the Worlds, not volume 2. Okay, where are we? Where did it get hidden? There we are, Races of the Worlds. There. Okay, to give you an idea, we gotta modify that a little. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 pieces of technology that I have added to the book. Okay. That I've explained, that I've decided to go in and explain what they are. Can I give you exact how they work? Not exactly. Okay, that ought to be an entertaining run. Well. Oh, here's the thing, Henry. No offense taken. Okay, as a matter of fact, if you were to ask her that, she'd tell you the same thing. No offense taken. It's a legitimate question, but she has technological screen readers and what have you. But I'm telling you, this is a woman that when I talk about her being picky, okay, I mean literally in between scene changes or in between section changes, if there is a space on an empty line, she'll spot the thing and we'll correct it. Now, she's not 100% perfect, but I'll tell you she's a heck of a sight better than anybody I've worked with. But yeah, I mean, this is a funny thing. For her being 100% blind, she sees more than most people I know of with both eyes. So from that standpoint, like right now, where are we here? I just minimized it. Open that up again. And Races of the Worlds. That's volume 2, way over there. There we are. The new version coming out is already 85 pages. Now, the first one that you guys have got is 64. Okay. Now, something you got to understand. When I first started doing the enhancement to it, I made a comment to you guys that if you had already bought the book, okay, that I will be sending out a new the second printing without charging you anything. Just make sure that I've got your address. Now, this said, okay, that still holds. The fact that the book is going to end up double the size is not your issue. It's not double. In all fairness, it's only 1.5 times the size, right? Well, 1 1/3, but I'm not done. Now let's minimize that, and we go to here. Oh. I have no idea when it started meaning, the linguistical side of it. All I do know, okay, is when I'm talking to somebody, if I'm referring to somebody, I tend to work with two genders. And I will not even bother making the effort to try and and I do mean that literally. I won't bother making the effort to turn around and figure out all the different genders. I'm sorry, I work with two, and call me old fashioned, call me stubborn, call me a number of things. I've been called a lot. Some of them are repeatable in polite company. Football. Oh, that's the good news. Her and I are both on the same page. We're planning on getting married at sea, and that's married with an M, not buried with a B. Okay, we're planning on going on a cruise and getting married away from everybody. Yeah, Philip's going. Helen Keller wrote a scathing editorial about how terrible the workplace was at one particular factory. They tried to ridicule her as a scam because she couldn't see or hear. I'm telling you, do not underestimate the blonde. And then the blind. Don't underestimate the blondes either. But do not underestimate the blind. They hear things that you'll never know. Okay, that you just totally overlook. They will smell things that are so faint because their other senses kick in. Deaf people see a staggering amount with their eyes. Okay, the ones I worry about are the stupid ones. And rest assured, there's a staggering number of those. You know, the reality of it is 5 senses do not begin to calculate everything. Now, everybody is born with 5 senses. How we doing there, Dogface? Glad you could join us. You know, the reality of it is this. Everybody is born with 5 senses. Now, my kids have a problem because for one big reason. Everybody's born with 5 and a rudimentary 6th. Okay. In my case, I was born with roughly 15 fully active. Okay. As in your standard 5. Taste, touch, smell, hearing, and eyesight. Okay. Now, do understand, smell and taste are basically the same thing. But then you've got your extended senses. Clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience. I heard one person regarding smell call it clairosmic. Okay. I don't know what distance touch is. I do know it works. And I could go on and on. But the reason I say my kids have a problem is because the pineal gland is where that rudimentary 6 is seated. Okay. So with that in mind, okay, when you're putting boundaries in place, you've got to remember they've got to be boundaries that the people can relate to. Telling, for instance, and this is just a blatantly obvious issue, okay, telling a blind person they cannot cross this line painted on the ground does not work because for some weird reason they're going to miss it. Okay. Big J is going, I'm blind as a bat without my glasses. What would you do if I told you there is a way to repair your eyes without going to the doctor and getting eye surgery or getting an operation or lasers or anything to that effect? Well, this is true, Henry. Although I really, I bought a shirt for a friend of mine and it says, God must love stupid people. He created so many of them. This is why if you ever want to get a real kick out of things, a really fun site to go to is darwinawards.com. But put boundaries in place that you're content with, that work for you, if you're in control of the house, that is. Philip just says distance touch is called creepy. Who keeps poking me? There's no one else here. Yes, it can be when you don't understand something. It can absolutely be a creepy feeling. Okay. You want a creepy feeling. I showed this to you guys a while back. And I did talk to my son about it, my youngest. When he was in grade 6, he made this. Okay, so it's sitting on his counter. It's sitting on his shelf in the bedroom. Right, one night. He wakes up and all of a sudden the thing does this. And then looks directly at him. Well, for some reason, he grabbed hold of the thing and ran out of the house. Ran out of the bedroom with this thing in hand and tossed it to me and goes, you keep this. So I did. But I'll tell you, that's something that'll throw most people for a loop. But you have to remember, if you're going to enhance, no, not going to do that. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. No, in all fairness, football, I won't be throwing it away. Okay. This little thing, where is it? It's this one over here. I keep weird things. What can I say? This little thing used to have an occupier. It used to be occupied. And before anybody jumps on it, this thing is plastic. It's a life-size replica. Okay. And I mean, that's just the way it is. It used to have used to have a working mandible. Okay. But one day, quite frankly, the one that lived in it, she licked me off. I evicted her. The mandible right there in front of my wife at the time and myself. The mandible split in three places. Yes, I do keep weird things. Okay. I do keep a yeah, be careful on that one, dog face. I had somebody show up at my house one day that actually threatened to do that. But no, when you're striving to draw your chosen family closer together, first thing you've got to learn to do is listen to what they're saying. Do not make the mistake of assuming you know exactly what's coming up. Okay. And this is why I say my boys have a little bit of a hiccup on that. Because I'll go to tell them something and they'll say, no, I understand that. And I'll go, again, explain it to me. What do you think I was going to say? And they'll tell me something and I'll stop and go back over it and go, no, this is what was coming. But when they pull the same stunt on me, I'll go, yeah, I understand that. I understand where you're coming from. Every once in a while, they'll look at me and go, okay, where am I coming from? So I'll go, bang, bang, bang. These are the issues. And they'll just sit there looking at me dumbfounded. It's like, okay. So when I'm talking about putting boundaries in place, pick ones that you like. I will tell you this. There's a couple of things you don't do. Number one, and this is the first door to drawing your family closer. When somebody, I'm not surprised by that at all there, Nathan. Nathan's just reminding us he's listening from work. Couple of things. There are 3 places in the house you never, ever, ever have an argument if it's at all possible to avoid. Sometimes doesn't work. Okay. Those 3 places are these. One, and this is the obvious one, for those of you that are adults, this will make sense. If we have younger kids they're listening in, may not make sense yet. And some adults it may not make sense to. But the first place that you never, ever have an argument, if you can avoid it, is in the bedroom. Okay, you just don't. And I'll tell you right now, it's a mood killer. Okay. And these people that tell you fighting leads to other things of a more positive nature, no, it frankly doesn't. Okay. Without the stress, I'll tell you things are a lot better. That's one place. Second place, never have an argument at the dinner table. When you're sitting down to a meal, yes, things will come up. And the trick there is acknowledge the fact that there's an issue that's got to be dealt with. Okay. Commit to discussing it after the meal. After the meal boils down to meal's finished, dishes are cleaned up, food's all put away. Now go straight to the living room, or maybe you call it a den. Maybe you call it a porch, but you go someplace that is not the bedroom and is not the dining room table. Okay. I can understand that, football. She just said football is just saying she threw away Raggedy Ann because it looked like the Annabelle doll. Yeah, there are, Philip. There are people with very odd collections. The reason you don't argue at the dinner table is it's bad for digestion. So when you sit down to the dinner table, make sure everybody gets a chance to explain some of what they've been going through for the day. And remember, when they're trying to lay something out, let them lay it out. Same as if you're striving to say something. Okay. It's absolutely imperative that you get that opportunity as well. This is where that reconnection happens. Okay, if you don't believe me, sit down in the living room, turn the video on, and see how much communicating actually happens. Okay, this is why I say shut off all the electronics, the phone, the TV, the radio, and I realize I'm dating myself from that standpoint. Actually, I'm much happier dating my other half. But with that in mind, now there was a question that came in here. Football asked, will arguments upset pets? The answer is absolutely yes. Okay. Honestly, Dogface, dinner itself, I'll tell you what, if you don't like the dinner that's being made, here's a neat idea. And I had a client that actually pulled this one off. Okay. The idea that you want to avoid an argument at the dinner table, don't make a crap dinner. I will tell you this. From my standpoint, that's pretty much what you're getting. I've got no sense of taste, no sense of timing, and no sense of space to speak of. Net result, if it's not moving, we're ahead of the game. Okay. But I will tell you, you look at the effort that's being put in. I know of one couple where the wife was an absolute pathetic cook. Like she literally had two ways of cooking. It was either soggy and mushy or burnt to a crisp. Okay, try as she might. That doesn't work that well, Dogface. Try as she might, she just couldn't get it together. But what her husband did was her husband sat down with her and ate the meal. Okay, primarily because while she was doing it as best she could. The thing is, when you're looking at the way a meal turns out, remember, it takes a lot of effort to cook. Okay, and the real important factor is if you're one of these people that does not like the way your other half is cooking, that would be the kicker there. I kind of gathered you were the Dogface. Dogface just going, I'm biased at the moment in case you can't tell. You know, but no, by sitting down to a concise meal, it doesn't have to be steak tartare. Although if you're having steak, I recommend cooking it more. Personally, I'm not impressed with steak tartare. On the other hand, I will quite readily eat a blue rare steak. For me, that actually is better than the other side. Now, I did not miss this. I did not miss this comment here, Philip. Philip had said earlier, there are people with scat collections. It's a bit weird, but he goes, we have people whose job it is to collect poop in the forest for species identification. Okay. And yeah, Wolverines, in case you hadn't noticed, Wolverines don't actually realize there's a border. They never pay any attention to it at all. Shadow goes, if you're going to argue, do it in the garage. It's easier to clean up the mess. Going for a walk is a good idea. The one thing you got to remember, if you're in the middle of an argument and one of the party wants to leave the building, wants to go for a walk, get out of the way and let them go. Forcing a confrontation when the blood is boiling is not a good move. I knew of a couple of cops years ago that used to get into a fight all the time. They were both black belts. And every time they got into a fight, they had to replace half the household furniture. To me, it's an easy thing. An argument starts, one of you get up and leave, and the other one let them go. Now, now I said the second place is the dining room table. Third place, you never have an argument, is right at the front door when you're coming home or when somebody else is. Because here's the kicker. Let's say the shoes weren't put away. or the dishes were left undone. You come through the door, and let's say you're the one that's upset about it. You come through the door and you look and you start complaining. How come the dishes aren't done? Why aren't the clothes put back where they belong? If you're the one doing that as you come through the door, nobody's going to want you to come home. If you're the one home already, and whoever comes through the front door and does that, you're not going to want them to come home. Honestly, Philip, that's not a bad method. Philip's just going, a good way to argue is sit down and put it on paper. Pass the paper back and forth. I will tell you this. That works to a degree, but I will tell you I've yet to see anything that is actually a good argument, as it was put to me by my mom and dad. And understand, my mom and dad, I do not recall them ever fighting. Okay, as they put it, an argument is an exchange of ignorance. A discussion is an exchange of wisdom, or an exchange of ideas. You know, that's the one thing that you got to look at. Okay, because an argument usually boils down to, I see it this way, I want you to see it that way. The odds of it happening aren't good. Okay, but the reality is, when you come through the door, if there's something out of place, absolutely make note of it, but wait an hour before you say anything. Let things get into a routine back while you're home. Then bring it up. Okay. Do not make the mistake of having that discussion right as you come through the door. It doesn't lead to good outcomes. Now, do understand, I've been dealing with people's relationships since I was 10 years old. Okay. So when I'm talking about statistics, I'm not talking about government statistics. I'm not talking about university research papers. I'm referring to over 100,000 clients I've personally dealt with face to face. Okay, or phone to phone, call it what you will. But I've dealt with in excess of 100,000 individual clients. So I've seen a fair chunk of different things happening. Now, I will tell you the other little kicker, and I mentioned this before, where it comes to alcohol. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to happen there, Dogface. There's a lot of reasons for that, and that's nothing personal against you, except one little detail. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dogface. I presume you're male. And besides that, I'm already spoken for, by the way. But the reality of it is, when we take a look at the relation, at the whole way that arguments work, first of all, they don't. Hey, Joe, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah. Yeah, if an argument is getting loud, whether it's with your parents or not, doesn't matter. Okay. But you do have to be aware that when you're having an argument, if the neighbors can hear it, you may have a bigger problem. And then it becomes both like everybody's problem. Philip's just going, I thought argument is wisdom. I found a great video from 66 with two people having a serious political argument while also listening and making cheeky jokes. See, now that isn't an argument. When not in my opinion, when you've got people like that are debating their own viewpoints and yet are not being derogatory or demanding, as it were, you're dealing with possibly a heated discussion, because passion can climb. I will warn you, though, the moment you add alcohol, what you've got is a disaster, because alcohol knocks out trained and learned inhibitors. The nice part about it is these are ways that you can actually turn around and make things happen a little bit more readily. Something else that works like an absolute charm, okay, is bringing home a gift. And that gift, by the way, can be a chocolate bar at a random time. There's no special no special reason for it. You just bring it home. Okay. And I don't mean just to your wife or just to your husband. I mean just to anybody. Okay. The reality of it is when you're dealing with charity, when you're doing something to help somebody, just to help them, it works out really nicely. See, I like the old fashioned protein bars. Okay, I'll go and buy a pack of wieners. They are straight protein. Well, don't go into what's in them, okay? That's probably a bad idea. Which reminds me, I didn't actually pick up the porridge I was supposed to pick up today. Oh well, that'll wait for a few days. But yeah, when you take a look at some of the books that are out, okay, or some of the videos that are out, when we go back and look at the 60s, that was when people focused on family instead of self gratification. I mean, realistically, how many people do you know will take one of these things and stare at it while they're sitting at the table with somebody that's supposed to be talking to them? It's just absolutely bizarre. You know, but no, the thing is, communication is the key to drawing the family closer. Okay. Now, like I've always told people around me, if you're not happy with the color I'm wearing, pick something else, because frankly, half the time I don't realize it's a problem. I figure I'm wearing clothes, I'm ahead of the game. But it really boils down to getting, and this is why I said, pick a minimum of one meal a week, preferably one meal a day, where you sit down with whoever else lives in the house. Shut the electronics off, shut all the electronics off, sit down and talk to each other. It's a weird concept. Okay. Staring at this and texting on it is not communicating. Okay. I mean, it's technically communicating, it's just poorly done. Philip goes, if it's getting loud, you've probably fired up your lizard brain and switched off the parts of the brain responsible for cooperation and problem solving. Arguing actually has never been classified as logical. I've always been fascinated by the term the lizard brain. Okay, because you take a look at genetics, and humans are not related to lizards. Are they related to other primates? Absolutely. So who the genius was that came up with, oh, it's a lizard brain? I'm absolutely certain that was meant as a derogatory comment. Because I will tell you, the reptilians that I know of, if they get into an argument, it's not an exchange of words. Okay. It can be. Okay, pass the right femur, please. I mean, this is where it ends. Okay. Lizards don't fight in a verbal fashion. Okay. They may hiss at each other a little, but 9 times out of 10, it doesn't end up with an exchange of blows. It ends up with an exchange of bodies. Yeah, Joe's just going, luckily for me, all the arguments I've had with my mom and dad that have gotten so loud, the cops didn't show up. Absolutely certain. Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay. When I was with my ex the last 4 years, we used to argue. But again, never had the cops show up. From my standpoint, boils down to this. Okay. If you're arguing, the first thing that would be advisable, and I do not expect people in the middle of an argument to actually make this happen, bite your tongue and give yourself a few moments to calm down. Very necessary. And Dogface goes, my dad's dead, so our arguments are pretty quiet now. Yeah, that's like my mom and dad are both dead. They still don't argue with each other. I'm absolutely certain of that. But yes, in answer to the question that's likely to pop up sooner or later, I do actually still talk to mom and dad. Okay, of course, I do have the advantage of being an active medium. The only problem I have with that is half the time they don't be quiet either. But the other thing that you have to remember when you're looking at connecting with and drawing your relationship with your chosen family closer together, okay, it's absolutely imperative that you realize you're not the only one in the discussion and your opinion is not the only one. It's like I told somebody the other day. I said, look, I've only been wrong in my life once. I said, I thought I was wrong and I wasn't. Now, the reality of that was, in case you hadn't figured it out, that's not entirely correct. There's been a lot of times I've been mistaken. If I hadn't been mistaken, my ex and I were still friends, but she's my ex for a reason. And it's not all her fault. And fortunately, in our case, it was neither due to fidelity problems nor due to finance. Okay. But we did, because we separated the way we did, we've still got a functional friendship out of the deal. But I will tell you, sitting down and communicating, treating the other people around you the way you desire to be treated will save you a staggering amount of headaches. Okay. The other thing, the other issue that you got to remember, there's a saying that goes, don't go to bed mad. Okay. Well, there's a reason for that. Okay, because if you go to bed mad, I will tell you, the odds are you're not going to sleep as well as you might like. Yeah, Philip says, it's also a good idea if people know they're not in your chosen family, not celebrities you see in the movie, etc. That could get and that could get awkward. Well, I've told people, and I literally, I mean, my brothers, I get along with them really well. Okay, now, of course, the nice part about it is they're in different cities. I get along fine with them. Yeah, and here's the nice thing, Joe. I'm really happy for you that you still have your parents. Okay, would that I had taken the time to patch things up with mine before they passed away. Because now it's fine. I've come to terms with it. But I will tell you, it's so much easier to put things back together on stable ground while they are alive than while they're not. Because you got to remember, parents have this neat little problem. They grew up in a world that you don't necessarily recognize, with stresses you may not get at all. Yeah, Dogface goes, my bill gets salami for $1. My best friend ever. See, my bane is really the parent. Like I get honey garlic pepperoni. Every time I go to this one store, I pick up 3 runs of it, one for each of the kids and one for me. But the reality of it is this: you desire your family to be more solid. Learn to communicate. Remember, they're not likely telepaths, which means if something's bothering you, come out and let them know. But understand it's not all their fault. Okay, the only person who is to blame for an individual's actions is the person actually performing the action. Okay, the reality of it is way too many people go, and this is absolutely bizarre. Well, you're female, you should know better. I'm like, There's a problem with that philosophy. Women are not, on the whole, controlled telepaths. Okay, but the problem is that we are taught that women have female intuition. What you're not taught is so do men. Okay, and yes, instincts will save you a lot of hassles. Okay, they can create a lot as well. And this is why you've got to learn how to gauge them. Now, this is why, with the newsletter that I've got coming out, okay, I will not be posting, great big chunks of it on the net. It will simply be a question of, if you desire it, I require a mailing address. If you desire it in physical form, if you desire it in email form, I require a email address. But that being said, I will not be charging for it, period. Yeah, it's funny, the funny thing and the really funny thing I see there, Dogface, is you're going, women are a pain in the butt. And that's not how you phrase it, I realize that. I hear women say exactly the same thing about men. I do not see a difference in the way they think. What I see is a difference in the way they get to their conclusions. Now, yes, women tend to be, on the whole, more emotional, but this is because men said women are they're allowed to be emotional. Men are supposed to hide their emotions. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be tough. They're supposed to take it like a man. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Somebody kicks you between the legs. I don't care whether you're male or female. You're going to be in pain. Okay? And no matter what you do, if you're male, doesn't matter what happens to you, you're taking it like a man. If you're female, doesn't matter what happens to you, you're taking it like a woman. I know something about the fact you were born that way. Okay, the reality of it is, and I gotta ask you, you since you brought this into the spotlight here, oh, let's see, Phelps going, I've been learning about a guy from the 400s who I believe I related to. I really feel like what he had to say, almost like an old friend. I have no idea where he is now, centuries later. Curiosity, who is the gentleman that you're reading about? And as for you, Dogface, let me ask you this. Okay, you say women are a pain in the butt, which I have no doubt the ones you've been dealing with are. Okay, are you straight up front with them? When you start dealing with them, you come right out and let them know where you're standing. Okay, point in fact, when my current other half, she asked me if I figured it was possible that we could make things work. And my immediate response, bear in mind, we didn't know each other at the time to speak of. Okay, this is a good thing, Dogface. You really have to be upfront with people. I don't care if they're male or female. Way back in the time of Socrates. I'm curious if I actually knew the man. I remember Socrates quite well. Socrates and Plato. What I keep forgetting is whether Plato was the teacher that I was dealing with or whether it was Socrates. I do remember meeting William Shakespeare. I was about 6 years old. But, and again, my lifetime memories are a little weird. Okay, but, the funny thing about it, when we talk about being honest to a fault, okay, or being upfront to a detriment, it depends entirely on how you phrase things. Okay, because I remember sitting in the bar one day and I thought I was blunt. This guy, oh, okay. I don't know history as well as from the books anyway, but I knew that this one chap, I used to drink with him. and this really good looking girl came into the bar, and he very politely, he looks at her and he goes, may I buy you a drink? There was nothing untoward, there was nothing rude about his approach, right? She looks at him, turns her nose up, and goes, no. Well, this wonderful little individual, I thought I was blunt. He looks her dead in the eyes and goes, oh, well, then I guess an F is out of the question. For some reason, she did not take that well. But the reality of it is, when you're dealing with people, be straightforward about where you stand. Okay. Because from what I found is this: if you're straightforward, then at least you don't have to worry about what you're remembering you said. This is why I tell people, look, you ask me a question, I'll be honest with you. I'll be straightforward. You may not like the answer, but at least I don't have to remember what I told you. Okay. I ran into a really nice lass the other day, just a few days ago. I still get people phoning up and wanting to date me, which is weird. I didn't have that when I was a kid, really. But had this girl, she contacted me on one of the social media sites, and she asked a few questions that were normal, right? They were questions, but I didn't see any problem with it. And then dawned on me what she was aiming for, because she asked what I do with my spare time if I'm not writing. So I told her. I told her I spend time with my other half. Oh, are you married? No, but I am very happily attached to her and planning on getting married. And for the first time ever, this woman turns around and she goes, oh, well, that's terribly disappointing, but can we still talk? Here's the thing, Philip. Okay, they call it neurotypicals. Okay. There is not a single human that I've run into, or for that matter, a single member of any race, that thinks in exactly the same fashion as another. Okay, I have yet to figure out what typical means. I have found out what tact means and totally decided that was useless to me. So I just don't bother. How you doing, Gordana? Glad you could join us. The neat part about it is, if you really desire a stable relationship, whether we are talking bloodline family, chosen family, as in your friends, your co-workers, this sort of thing, it all boils down to honest, straightforward communication. Okay. Now, I'm known, unfortunately, for being extremely sarcastic. Okay. Especially when I figure somebody's asking a question that just, all it would take is a split second, to think it through first. And this is one of the reasons why, when I got asked if I would go back to work on a psychic line, I went, no, I will still do my consulting. And I've got a whole whack of email addresses here. Or not email, but mailing addresses. This whole stack, I will be sending a letter to, letting them know that yes, I am still willing to do the consulting. Yeah, Henry's going, thanks to public education and universities, there are so-called intellectuals whom I believe Philip is referring to. I used to know many of them. I've yet to find most of the teachers I went to school with didn't like me because I'd answer questions they were asking. Only I'd do it literally. But, again, very important from your standpoint. You desire to draw a closer relationship with anybody. Be upfront. Oh, that's the easy part. Give me half a second here. Dogface is just asking if he can have my email. And I'm just going to call up, where are we? Races, where is what I'm looking for? That one. Here we are. This is the email address that'll get to me the easiest. And yes, I'm actually paying attention to them at this point. Where is it? This is the best one to get a hold of me because it's the one that I go out of my way to really keep an eye on. Am I perfect at it? Absolutely not. What? How about if we get that? There we go. That would be the email address. If you choose to drop me a line there, Dogface, just let me know where you're coming in from. Even if all it is I'm Dogface. That will tell me a whole lot. So I know that I can get back to it. I had somebody the other day from California. They phoned and ordered a book. Honestly, football, the answer to that is no. Even when I was at the most volatile with my ex-wife. Okay, never once did I turn around and use my abilities as a tool. Now, I will tell you, when I get pushed too far, if the argument went too long, and I reached a point where I went, the argument stops now. This was a warning because the powder keg was about to blow. If she said one word more, then unfortunately what would happen is I would quite literally hit her with an empathic bolt. Now, I'll tell you, if you've never received one, don't go there. They are painful. But have I ever used my gifts as a way of pulling information to use as a weapon? No, not ever. Okay. I quite honestly, I don't believe in using your abilities, if at all avoidable. Now, am I perfect? Not even remotely close. Okay. I'd like to say I'm perfect. No, I can't. I'm perfect. In all fairness, absolutely false, but what the heck? I can work with it. Now, I'm just going in here because, well, I can. Turn that on. I gotta go through these tonight. That's for certain. Yeah, I get a kick out of that. I'm just looking here. Let's see if it did something really stupid. Now I'm glad I checked there. Okay, Dogface. It absolutely did show up. It just ended up in my spam bucket, so I'm changing that. Nope, that is not what I need. I am doing that, not spam. Now it'll end up in my. Now I'll make sure that it continues showing up. Where are we here? Okay, all sorts of neat things there. There, finally got here. Okay, now it's in my proper bin. I know you. Yeah, Dogface is just going, I am not spam. Now, I'm hoping you're also not Pam. But, yeah, no, it's arrived, and I will respond to it after I get done with the stream. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea that I'm going through with the whole path I'm on here is I've made some pretty stupid moves. Have I done everything by the book? Well, by somebody's book, but I'm thinking it got thrown in a shredder somewhere along the way. Okay, the advantage, the one advantage I've got is that I look at it and go, I know I make mistakes. I'm just not willing to blame myself anymore for it. Oh, and Gordana's she's going to a dentist 120 kilometers away, meaning something in the neighborhood of about 90 miles. I don't blame you. The sad part there, Gordana, I've found that many of the people that claim to be professional are absolutely useless. Oh yeah, Joe. Yeah, like like you. I don't question am I going to put my foot in my mouth? I question how am I going to get in there? JCL, how are you? And the answer to that is yes. I will have to, JCL is just asking, can I ask a question about my love life in an email? The answer is yeah, you can. And before anybody gets into too far, I'm going to have to watch what I'm doing on that end. But the answer is yes. Since I've given you that answer, absolutely send me the question you're looking at. When I first started doing consulting, I used to do it by mail. Okay, I used to do it by snail mail when I started. Okay, then I moved on to the other side of things. But this is what's called getting in under the wire. Okay, because in your case, JCL, I will absolutely answer the question for you. Okay. And in answer to the question, some of you are bound to ask, why charge for the use of a natural gift? Well, here's the reason. I've got this funny thing that I like having over my head. It's called a roof. If I don't charge for what I'm doing, okay, then I have to find a different way to make income, and I cannot help as many people. And that's just the reality of it. But I did figure out and here's the real backbone of the reality. I figured out a way where I've literally allocated 100% of my net profit to be profit shared with all participants, including taking 10% of it to make sure I can grow my business. Okay. Anybody that tells you that you should just do your natural gift for free, let me put it this way. My father had a natural gift where it came to mechanics. Okay. He made his living at it. And this was a man that could build anything. If he didn't have the tool to build it with, he'd build the tool and then build the item. If he didn't have the way to build the tool, he'd build the machine, build the tool, then build the item. This was just my father's way of doing it. I appreciate that, dog face. That's what's called self-governing. We really do, especially given the fact that YouTube has its own rules, one of which does seem to be, from what I've gathered, I should really go into my spam and see what all is there, shouldn't I? But, let me go. Some people charge for the lack of a gift or just sit there and stare at you. They absolutely do. The other thing I will tell you, for people that if you're looking to go to talk to a consultant, whether it's a professional consultant, a psychic consultant, doesn't matter. First rule of thumb, okay, if they are asking you a bunch of questions first before they start doing anything, there's only two questions that I incessantly, and I do insist on asking. Okay, there's quite often three, but the primary ones is I ask for a name to make sure I know who I'm talking to, so I can call them something other than "Hey you." Okay, I definitely ask for a birth date. The reason being, it's still, in my opinion, necessary to ensure the person I'm talking to is, at least by their definition and by what they're telling me with a birth date, that they are at least legal age. I will not do a consultation for a child without the parent there. I just won't. Okay. And I will ask where you're from, whether it is, so I know if it's a city or if it's a small town, because I will tell you this. Okay. I will absolutely tell you this. If you're in a big city, your thinking is different than if you're in a small town, and so is the environment you're going to be dealing with. And Gordana, I do agree with you, gender matters, but I found that if you've got the other two, for me personally, whether they're male or female, isn't a real concern until you start dealing with the gender of who they're dating. And in today's world, I'll tell you, this idea of having 30 different genders, I'm sorry, I don't go there. You know, Philip, everybody is a child at heart. They just don't want to admit it. If you've got a mother and a father, even if you're a vat job, as in born in a test tube, okay, you're still a child of somebody. Bad news. I knew a woman, and very much a woman, but I'll tell you, she had a very deep voice. But there are women with bass voices. My brother had a soprano voice. Okay. And I'll tell you, there was no way you were going to convince anybody he was gay. Was not. Well, he was. He was very gay. He was happy 90% of the time. At least they was in the hospital. You know, I do not actually know that tone term there. Gordana. Gordana's just said castrato. I don't know what castrato means. I know what it sounds like. You know, but when you're looking at, and like I said, one of the biggest factors when you're looking at drawing a solid connection with your family, it really boils down to making sure you know what schedules are and work around them. Like, for instance, my eldest son has just moved home. Okay, he's just moved back in with us. But because we haven't got things sorted around right now, we're sharing keys. So he told me when he had to be out the door, I made sure he was back home so he could get the key and go. Where are we here? That's what I was, yeah. Okay, well, that would explain. That's what I kind of figured. No, my brother was soprano. And he was, I don't know. He never did have children, but that doesn't mean he didn't play around. But that said, no, he was very much a natural soprano. Startled the heck out of a lot of the adults they dealt with. But from my standpoint, I figure, I'm somewhere between bass and bullfrog. As in, couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. So I don't bother. Now, on the other hand, my other half has been diagnosed pitch perfect. So I'm certainly not going to complain about that. Oh, they play, they practice, they practice it. Some of them did. They didn't do a good job of it. I know of a couple of cases where they tried to pull that, and instead of just cutting it off, they took out the femoral artery. And I'll tell you, that made for a very short lifetime. Well, while you're sitting there, dog face, all you do is you sit there with your feet on the floor, pick one up, pick the other up, and just stomp your feet. Call it walking. Just pretend it's heavy-footed. What do we got here? No, absolutely not. See, the funny part about it is I really don't care. To me, it's like, whatever. And for those people that go, oh, they're evil, they're a mistake. Here's a neat little piece of information for you. Roughly 4% of the entire mammalian population. In other words, cats, dogs, elephants, rabbits, rats, horses, people, you name it. Approximately 4% are gay. Okay, that's just the way it is. Honestly, football, I can feel the pain from animals, plants, and people. This is one of the reasons why I end up becoming a lot more reclusive. I actually taught an ex of mine how to listen to the trees. Because they literally, like I get most of my news by talking to the plants and the animals. Okay. For me, this is just a normal way of looking at things. The problem that I'm running into is that, this is why I get along so much better with animals. Animals are 100% honest. They either like you or they don't. Okay. They're either going to try and kill you or they're not. There's no hidden agenda. This is just the way they are. I had a dog there. Well, I didn't have the dog. I was walking down the mall the other day, down a strip mall. And this little dog all of a sudden comes running out from underneath the stroller. He was still on a leash. But he comes running out from underneath the stroller and starts pushing against my ankle. So I bent down to talk to him. And the owner looks at me and goes, he never goes near people, especially not men. What's this? I said, I like them better than I like people. Because for me, it's just a question of accepting people as is. Do I see any of you guys as any better or any worse than anybody else? No. Okay. I look at one thing. If you're going to say something, if you're going to do something or say you're going to do something, do your absolute best to make it happen. Okay. Right now, let me just pull up the right information. Because I do prefer giving the right insight, the right answers. Okay, the newsletter that is coming out, like I said, today is the 14th, which gives me, well, realistically, 3 days to finish it. Okay. But that newsletter is not going to be huge. It is, right now, it's 5 pages, meaning it's going to be a whopping, mind-boggling 6 pages long to start with. Eventually, I will bring it up to being a full-size magazine, but I still will not be charging a plug nickel for it. To me, that's just the wrong way of doing things. Where are we? Minimize that. Football's going to Spirits Gossip. That TV show Ghosts. Do Spirits Gossip? That TV show Ghosts. They always tell the truth. Well, number one, spirits do gossip. Spirits are people without a vehicle. It's that simple. Phil's just going, my great-grandmother was social with plants too. For several years, she worked alone at a forest fire lookout. She liked looking after the forest while listening to classical music. And that's just it. And by the way, plants do have different types of music they like. To me, the way I look at it is this. When you're dealing with people, and do understand, one of my best friends was a chap by the name of Gordon. Okay. He was a croton. And that does not mean I'm not insulting him. A croton is a plant. Okay. And this guy, I'm walking by him one day, and all of a sudden I have my coffee in my hand, and all I hear is, now bear in mind, I was on my own. I'm walking by him with the coffee in my hand, and he goes, where's my coffee? I'm stopped, I looked around, and was like, what do you mean, where's your coffee, and who am I talking to? So he called me out again, and eventually I figured out where he was. I looked at him and I said, I asked him, I says, so you like coffee? He goes, no, I asked for it because I hate the stuff. So when do I get my coffee? I said, you get your coffee as soon as you're polite. And he stops and he goes, may I please have a coffee? I said, absolutely, I'll go grab you one. I said, I'm not getting you a hot coffee. I'm going to grab you a cold one. Right. He goes, but I like hot coffee. I said, you probably do. I don't like barbecuing your roots. Right. So he settled for it. And that worked out really well. I literally would give this guy, I would give him at least a cup of coffee a day. Okay, well, not bear in mind, a cup of coffee for him would be like an ounce of coffee. Right. I would usually give him a cup of coffee a day because, well, frankly, he was happier with it. Now, football, in answer to your question, if you, number one, they literally moved by picking their roots up and shifting them. Now, here's the thing. Down, I believe it's in Borneo, they have plants and they have trees that actually do move. Okay. Not entirely, Philip, but down in Borneo, they do track them. But the ones they've shown that the scientists have tracked in Borneo show them moving at like an inch a year sort of thing. I saw a video the other day that was taken from a drone where it had an entire copse of trees, and by rough guesstimation, they were moving at least at 2 miles an hour. Like they were bucking it. Okay, but these were right out in the middle of nowhere. This is what I'm referring to when I say a lot of the stuff. Yes, football, like in Puff and Stuff. I believe that was HR Puff and Stuff. I used to watch it when I was a kid as well. But no, this is why in Tolkien's world they talk about treants. Okay, in my world, I came to understand. I literally decided asking them was the best move. They're Arborians. Okay. So I mean, when we're looking at this, even rocks move. Okay, you want to watch something move in a hurry? Watch a fire. Okay, these are all living entities. You can communicate with all of them if you care to remember how to listen. Okay, but you got to remember they don't speak English. Okay, they really don't. But I'm looking at things now. I've decided, okay, the consulting is going to happen. And as I decide on how, well, I will tell you this, and I'll have to figure it out for those of you, aside from you, JCL. Okay, you've asked if you can drop me a line concerning your love life. You absolutely can. But I am going to come up with a price to go back to doing snail mail or email in this case. And there's a reason for that. Again, it's because there is only so much time in a day. And I know there's a lot of you out there that require assistance. Okay, so I will be keeping prices down where they belong. What I consider they belong. Football's going, can anyone communicate with a tornado? The answer is absolutely yes. Anyone can remember how to communicate with a tornado or with a forest fire. There was a situation, about 7 years ago. There was a hurricane. I forget what they called it. There was a hurricane inbound, a class 4, inbound into Florida. And I was dating somebody long distance at the time, and she mentioned this thing was coming in. And I looked at her and I said, well, why don't we just slow it down to a squall and send it elsewhere? And she goes, you can't do that. I said, how about if we don't discuss what I can't do? Now, if you go back and look it up, what I found out, like all of a sudden, it came in as a class 4. And according to the meteorologists at the time, you take care, Philip. Thanks for joining us. The meteorologists went, why did that hurricane all of a sudden stop? Like it just all of a sudden come to a grinding halt and headed north. And it ended up dissipating into the Atlantic off of Nova Scotia. Right. But anybody can learn to talk to them. Yeah, Henry goes, we had a tornado warning right where I live. I repeated in my head as loud as I could. There will be no tornadoes. And sure enough, the funnel cloud that was forming dissipated. You know, Henry, one thing I will tell you, keep an eye on that sort of thing. Sooner or later, you'll see enough evidence that you'll either go, no, that really was me, or you'll go, no, it was just nice timing. Okay, but I wouldn't write it off if I were you. JCL, that works out quite, and that one I absolutely will do. Okay, I am quite willing to do that. And that deals with it quite readily. I don't know. I don't think I've got. If I don't have your physical mailing address, JCL, I do require it. But I will, when I say I've got them ready to go, this is what I mean. Tell me. Hey, let's not do that. When I said I've got them in stock, that's the first one. There's the second. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. All I need from you, JCL, is simply a physical mailing address, and that'll solve that problem in a hurry. You know, the nice part about it, when we take a look at really connecting with people, you know, the thing you got to remember, the thing you have to remember is that money is not going to buy anybody happiness. Okay, nobody. You know, money doesn't buy happiness. But I will tell you this: it was put to me by a millionaire one day. He goes, "You know, money doesn't buy happiness, but it does afford you the ability to look for it in a lot more places." Okay, and this is just the reality behind it. Okay, money itself has got to be a side effect of whatever you're working on. You know, by the way, for those of you that have football goes, one morning a duck came to my door. He was just looking for a meal. Animals are wonderful things, they really are. But I have found out a ratio. I discussed it with my executive assistant, and we did come up with a way, with a cost of publishing other people's work. Okay, both publishing it and editing. Okay, but there are stipulations. But for those of you that have a book, okay, my company is already listed as doing publications. This works out well. Now I'm just striving to find other ways of dealing with things and making it all work absolutely properly. But when I said I was going to push the business and make it grow, okay, I'm actually talking to my kids to get them involved in as much of it as I can, or more to the point, as much of it as they desire. One thing I will tell you wholeheartedly is there is no way I will ever have a board of directors. Okay, board of advisors, absolutely. But a board of directors, it's not going to happen. Yeah, Gordon is just gone. Before C, I had coffee with Wild Goose. Chad, how you doing? Glad you could join us today. Where are we here? We are holy mackerel, the day has gone by in one heck of a hurry. But no, when you're looking for, when you're looking to reconnect or to connect more solidly with family, with strangers, with just whoever, be honest, be upfront, shoot from the hip, and answer people honestly. Don't try embellishing, it usually comes back to bite you. Okay. Now, I know some of the stories I tell people sound completely out to lunch. Okay. They really do. But then my life, like I've told people, is more like science fiction than anything else. But I will tell you. Okay. The neat thing about this every one of the main characters were built by a gamer. They're based on characters built by a gamer. Okay. Most, pretty much, not all, most of the events that take place, either I went through personally or the gaming crew went through, either the gaming crew went through it or I went through it or I met people that I based characters on. There's only one character, and he doesn't show up until book 12, that came out of nowhere. I have no idea where he came from, no idea how he got there at all. I just happen to know he's there. Less than an hour left to work. Yeah, no doubt. I've only got, well, I figure I get done this stream, I've got another 6 or 7 hours of work because of what I've laid out for myself. But the real catch, the way to actually strengthen a bond with people is take the time to sit down and talk to them without these silly things. Don't use these. These are great for communicating if you're trying to set things up. But you are far better off sitting down. And this is why when people ask if they come to town, will I go for coffee? The answer is absolutely yes. The answer to that, Chad, is yes, there are. But with that in mind, I don't have them here. They're all up front. So I will make sure, and I'm just going to make a note of it for myself. I did pick up a couple of new figures. I picked up one that was really funny. A bipedal rhinoceros packing a Tommy gun. Okay. I mean, it just seemed like an idea at the time. It was a figure I came across, and I figured it was great. But yeah, I've just made a note to make sure that I've got some of the new figures ready to go, because where are we here? There. We got about 10 minutes left here. Yeah, and the neat part about it, I think the figures I'm going to deal with are figures because what I've taken to doing with the figures is I've taken to going, okay, here's a creature. This is whatever the story is it's coming from. Okay. I just had to, what was his name? Her name. Grisa and Shaula are two dare wolves in the birth of the wolf pack. And I've got to pick out which figures and then actually paint them accordingly. But I've decided that the figures I've got more than 4, and I've got almost 500 figures that aren't painted. So all I have to do at this point is turn around and pick up the new ones. So that I can actually start painting them for my writing. No, football, it really doesn't. Time itself actually doesn't move any faster. It's just as you get older, because you don't necessarily travel as fast as you used to, it seems to travel faster. Okay. But no, time itself, I mean, if you think about it, if time moved faster as you get older, right, we would have a massive problem because kids, first and foremost, you'd have a different time frame for everything in existence. Okay. Net result, you couldn't cross-coordinate anything. But no, time is a static thing. Contrary to popular belief, or scientific extrapolation in all fairness, and yes, I am very well aware that I will argue the point, with actual professional scientists. We can prove it goes faster. Really? Here's a formula that nobody, when Einstein put it in their lap, none of the so-called scientists could figure it out. The theory of relativity is not what people were told. Okay, I'm telling you that right now. And yes, I know that goes against everything you've been told, that you may have been told. Okay, The theory of relativity being the closer to the speed of light you go, the slower time gets. That wasn't the theory of relativity. That was a formula that Einstein gave up trying to explain to the scientists. Okay, so he gave them that one, along with E equals mc squared. Okay, these were two mathematical calculations that Einstein gave because he gave up trying to explain it. The theory of relativity, as I understand it, 1 plus 1 equals 3. Okay, it is not mathematics. It is relative. It is relative. Simple as that. Okay, but the scientists kept trying to turn it into a mathematical equation. It's not math. Okay, but there's no question in football. When you're a child, time does seem to go slower because patience is not a strong suit. Well, patience was never a strong suit for some people, even as they get older. And if you're patient, time can take forever. If you're impatient, it can seem like if you're patient, time can seem like it just goes by before you know it. If you're impatient, it's kind of like watching a pot boil. Boring as heck, but eventually it may come to pass. You know, the nice part about it, when we take a look at things, okay, if you desire something, and this is why, Nathan and Chad, you've done exactly what I've asked people to do. If there's something you would like to see, or there's something you'd like to talk about, absolutely let me know. Okay, now, let me see here. I gotta get these books put back out of the way until I get ready to pack them in. That's the easy part. Slide that in there. Put that one there. I just gotta clear my calendar because that's how I gauge everything. There we go. Nathan, I think that we are. Sorry, Chad. I think you just tapped on something really brilliant. Oh, it won't be tomorrow. It'll be Friday. Tomorrow's my gaming day. Sorry, I'm not online on my gaming day. I don't even know what Dial of Destiny is, in all fairness. Oh, the answer to that is probably not at the theater, but I will watch for it. I actually didn't manage to get to see in Dungeons and Dragons at the theater, but I will certainly be watching the new Indiana Jones movie. I've watched all the rest of them. I'm actually one of the few people I know of that managed to see each and every one of the Star Wars, of the Star Wars series in the theater. Football, if that question is to me, I haven't seen it yet. I didn't even know it was out. What did I do with it? There we are. Yeah, Chad, it won't be tomorrow that I bring the figures on. Next time I'll be on will be on Friday, on the 16th. Definitely a different band, but I will make absolutely certain that I do that. I never saw the D&D movie, and frankly, I'm not going to be discussing it because I don't want to know about it. I still desire to see it. Apparently, it was good, but I didn't get a chance to see it and still haven't. I'm waiting for it to come out on YouTube or on Netflix, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it'll come out on Disney for all I know. But the reality of it is this. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at that side of there, Chad. Yeah, let's just see if I missed anything here. So I mean, tonight I've got a few things I've got to deal with, not the least of which, JCL, I will keep an eye open for your address. As soon as I've got your physical mailing address, I will get the books into the mail for you. Okay, I just sent, let's see, 3 days ago, I sent one book to Saskatchewan, no, to Calgary, send another one to California, and I will send this one wherever. Well, technically it'll be two. No, literally it'll be two. You know, so because I did decide it's time to start pushing the consulting, and I got to work out a price for doing it online and what have you. There's a very big difference between doing live consulting, and if you're looking for live consultation, frankly, Skype, Yahoo Messenger, I think LinkedIn has a video set. I will not be installing any other ones. That's just the reality of that. Okay, I've had a lot of people go, well, can you install this? The answer is probably, but I'm not going to. I'm kind of stubborn that way. It's kind of like if you go to a restaurant and you go, but I want to come to your restaurant at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they go, well, I'm not open. Well, can't you open for me? Can I? Probably. Am I going to? Not a prayer. And that's just the reality of it. Okay, I'm in the process of picking which 2 days because I've decided flat out I'm not going back to work for anybody. I'm running through the hoops I have to make sure my finances stay stable until my retirement kicks in, or my inheritance kicks in, whichever happens first. I don't care. Money's never been my motivator, but keeping a roof over my head certainly has been. Okay. So, I'm looking at all sorts of different issues. Okay. And the way I look at it, if I can point out some of the things I did wrong, that I did ineffectively, that created a problem for me, and help you avoid those pitfalls, I will absolutely do so. Which is why, and let me just grab that one little piece here. Here we go. With Inner Voice Enterprises, okay, with my company, I will be doing the consulting, the newsletter. The consulting is gonna cost. The newsletter and the live stream, those are my way of advertising. Those are my way of reaching out to people on an open forum without you having to pay for it. Okay, but I am looking into t-shirts, baseball caps, actual prints of the different books, of the different pictures that I've got, and coffee cups. Because I don't know about you, but I think I use these. I think, maybe. With this in mind, guys, we are hitting the end of the 2-hour run here. If you like the stream, give us a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel, and for pity's sakes, absolutely share the daylight. And share the daylights out of it, even if it's the people you don't like. I'm a firm believer if I make everybody happy. Some people by showing up, most of them by taking off. Now, with this in mind, I'm going to call it night. I will be back again on Friday. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.